Hello everybody, this is Crumbs018, and I'm not sure what kind of video I'm going to be making this time. Actually, hang on. Instead of me doing a reaction video for this episode of this video, I'm going to do something else. Since I finished Brotherhood, I might as well do a review of it to show you guys, to let you guys know how I essentially feel about it. Since I'm sure you guys would like my opinion, because I never really gave too much of an opinion during the reactions. Besides the obvious crying during emotional and sad scenes and stuff like that. Anyway, as for whether I would do the original Fullmetal Alchemist reactions at some point, possibly. It just depends on if my boyfriend tries to get me to watch it at some point. If he does, then probably not, unless you guys really want me to, in which case it wouldn't be a blind reaction. As for whether it stands up to whether I think Brotherhood is better than Fullmetal Alchemist, I'd say yes, but I haven't seen the original, so I can't really compare the two yet. But I think that Brotherhood is probably a bit better because not only does it stick to the manga a lot more than the original does, because if I remember correctly, Fullmetal Alchemist came out while the manga was being created still. It was like, it essentially ended up passing the original source material, which was the manga, because manga wasn't being put out fast enough, and so they ended up going past it and making up their own content. So Brotherhood was made after the manga was finished, I think, or around the time the manga was finished. So Brotherhood is more akin to more canon, I should say, because it's based off of the original material more than the original was. As for what I thought of the characters, oh my god, I loved a bunch of the characters. Even the minor characters like Ling's attendants. Oh, sorry, I thought that was the baby crying. It's Beethoven barking. One of the Christmas movie that involves Beethoven is on in the living room, and I heard him barking. I was like, hey, is that the baby crying? But no, it's him barking. Okay. Anyway, even the minor characters I loved. Like I said, Lan Fan and Fu, because obviously... Well, then again, even if I wasn't as attached to the characters, I probably still would have cried, since any sad thing that I see or hear will get me crying. Even if it's like a funeral for a character that essentially is on TV, it will make me cry. Even role-playing a funeral in, like, for those of you who have seen Angel Art's Mass Effect tabletop campaign, when they did the funeral for Damien, I could not have my character say anything because I had turned my chair around and I was crying. Not only because it was my character's death, or my character that died, but it was essentially a funeral, and it's also because I guess I still wasn't over the death of my aunt, because her funeral was like in February of that year. And so she had recently died, so I hadn't gotten completely over it, so I guess anything like that was going to make me really upset. Anyway, that's essentially why I would probably cry, even like, let's say, I kind of did cry when Light died in the end of Death Note, but even though he was essentially a villain, and I essentially hated his guts, since the way he treated people and the way he manipulated people just to get what he wanted, it still made me cry, since I'm a sensitive person, essentially. I'm a big sensitive mushball, essentially. Anybody that shows me anything sad will make me cry. So, even if I'm not attached to the character completely, or even only a little bit, then it will still make me cry if that character dies. Hero or villain. But, like I was saying, I keep on getting distracted. I've still got my ADD, apparently. Anyway, I really like the characters. As for who my favorite could be, I'm not sure. Let me think. It was either Ed, Roy, or Ling. I loved those characters. Oh, actually, like I said, I loved all the characters, but, the villains? What did I think of the villains? I'm not sure. I think Gluttony kind of seemed like more of not really innocent as in a good character, but innocent as in they didn't know much about right from wrong. They didn't know about essentially how things go in the world. They just did what they were essentially felt like they needed to do. Like Gluttony, he ate a lot because he was hungry. Anyway, I think that Gluttony could have been a more fleshed out character had he known more about how the world works and how... Not really more how the world works, but... Now that I think about it, whether he knew more about what's right and wrong and had more interactions with characters other than the sins. Because he didn't really seem to care that essentially the entire nation was going to be sacrificed, and who knows what would have happened. Hang on. Aw, dang it. Not even plugged in. Sorry, I was trying to lean down and plug in the heat, turn on the heater because my feet were kind of cold. 1 second. I will edit it out in a second. Okay. Sorry about that, I had to plug in the heater and turn it on because it's cool in this house. It's cold outside, essentially. It's essentially 26 degrees currently in my city, or my town. Anyway, it makes me wonder something. Would Father have essentially... Actually, I think yes. I think Father would have sacrificed the homunculi had they survived, if it came down to it. If it came down to whether he would get what he wanted, or if he would have been defeated, he would have sacrificed them, because he essentially was going to take out greed in the end. Just to get another Philosopher's Stone so he could try and win. He didn't care about them, he just wanted essentially the power of a god and immortality. So that makes me wonder, would the allegiances of the homunculi have changed had they known this? Because I don't think okay, I'm going back to Gluttony. I'm just going to go on with hopefully all of the sins. I'll try and get to all of them, at the very least. I don't know if Gluttony would have... I think he still would have allied himself with Father, because he figured that Father would have brought them back and fixed them, because he was telling Pride that when the fight was going on between them and Ed and them, that when Pride asked how many times he had died, he said he lost count, and that they had both been injured badly, and Gluttony said that it's okay because Father will fix us up. He seemed more innocent in this because Father could just as easily have not fixed them up. He could have just let them die like Lust, for example, Envy. Those guys died without getting revived. Only ones that got revived were Greed and Gluttony. Those are the only ones, essentially. The rest just died. Anyway, Lust, I'm not sure, because she died so early in the show. I would assume that she might not have allied herself with Father because, essentially, self-preservation. But I could be wrong, because like I said, she died so early on that we never got we never would have been able to figure that out. Envy's death. I'm not sure what to think about him. If you guys have any, essentially, analysis of any of the characters on what I'm talking about, essentially, feel free to offer them in the comment section, but this is essentially a review, so I'm just giving you insight on what I think about the characters. Okay, or rather, insight on... Okay, Les probably wouldn't have, but we weren't sure because she died so early. Envy, I think he would have still allied himself with Father because he probably would have thought the same thing as Gluttony, that they would have gotten, you know, a new Philosopher's Stone. And then he could have gone on being cruel to humans like he has been. Sloth. I don't know if Sloth would have, because he probably would have just thought it was a pain. I don't think he would have complained either way. Actually, probably would have complained, I just don't know if he would ally himself either way. Sorry, I think I'm getting a cough, because it's been really cold, and I've been out. In the cold, I've had a coat on, but still, it hasn't really been helping too much on keeping me warm, especially with the wind blowing. It made it worse. Anyway, Lust, Sloth, Envy, Gluttony, Pride. Pride would have been more self-surviving, because he was essentially going to force himself into Ed in that episode when he was falling apart. So, if it came down to it, whether it be either survive or fall prey to Father using my Philosopher's Stone to add to his own power, I think Pride would have chosen to survive, whether it would have been hypocritical or not. Like Kimberly said, I think he would have chosen to possibly... I don't think he would have allied himself with Father if it came down to Father using them to get what he essentially using their Philosopher's Stones to get more power for himself, thus destroying them in the process, because actually I don't know if he would have thought Father would have brought them back or not. I assume he would have thought, but I don't know. Sorry. I think I am getting sick. Great. And right around the New Year's time, great, even better. What else? Lust, Gluttony, Envy, Sloth. Wrath. I don't think Wrath would have really cared, because he was essentially ready to sacrifice his nation of Amestris to have this happen. So, and I assume he was well informed of what Father was planning. And thus, he would have been ready to lay down his life. I think he would have allied with Father. Even then again, I don't know. I don't really know enough about Bradley to have an opinion on that. Okay, Father. I think that was all the sins. Hang on. Lust, Envy, Gluttony. Greed. Well, we all know what happened with Greed. He wouldn't have allied himself with Father because he's the rebel of the group. And he never allied with... He ended up breaking off with them both times he was created. Wrath, Pride... what am I missing? Lust, Envy, Gluttony, Greed... Wrath... Sloth, and Pride. Okay, I got them all. Okay, now to Father. I don't really know much about... I don't really know too much when it comes to an opinion on Father, besides the fact that I don't really like him. Oh, sorry, I heard my brother, he's not happy. I guess something's going on in his game and he's not happy. Anyway, Father. I think Father essentially got what was coming to him, since he essentially took all the vices of humans out of his body when he got his body to make the homunculi, which made him less... He never got to learn what being a human and having bonds and everything like he wanted was about since he did that. He took out all his emotions, essentially. Well, not really emotions, but all his desires, I guess. I think. I think that's how it will go, but essentially, what the truth told him is that he essentially didn't learn anything. Because I've heard that essentially the doors of truth for Ed, it's I think the tree of life, someone said, and Roy's is essentially the symbol for flame alchemy, but Truth's door was blank, which means he didn't learn anything about people or alchemy, essentially, in general. He threw all that back in, I guess, the Truth space when he essentially made the homunculi and stuff. I could be essentially pulling the stuff out of my butt for all I know. If I'm wrong about something, just let me know and correct me. Because I'd like to let obviously know more about the show because I love it so much. But Father could have gone a very different way had he not done that. He could have possibly learned more about people, formed bonds possibly with people if he hadn't been so arrogant. Though that could have diminished a bit if you because I think people can change and attributes can diminish over time to where you're not so let's say narcissistic, I guess would be the word, full of yourself, which I guess will be another word for pride. So essentially, certain attributes could diminish over time, and thus he could have been a better person, even though he wasn't technically human. Sure, he was born from Whole One Time's blood, but he wasn't actually a human. He was a homunculus. The first homunculus, actually. Which I think was part of the title, what explained Hohenheim's backstory. Essentially, I didn't like Father because of how essentially his plans and how he was planning on using people and not caring about anybody except himself. That's all he cared about, himself. All he wanted was to get power for himself and to continue on living forever. He didn't care about anybody else. I don't even think he really cared about the homunculi. Though if he actually did, let me know when instances of that happened and explain it possibly, because I might still not get it. As for the other characters, Ed and Al, they were awesome. Sorry, someone just walked in the house. I assume it's either my dad or my mom, I'm not sure. Shh, dumb dogs. I think it's my dad. Anyway, Ed and Al, they were awesome. Al was so innocent, in a way, and yet, I just want to hug both of them. It's got that whole short thing I kind of do as well. I don't like being short. I'm essentially 5 foot, so, yeah, I'm pretty short. Though not as short as I could be, because I'm essentially as tall as my mom. But I love both of them. I really wanted them to succeed and get their bodies back. I hated that they had to see all they saw. Like with poor Nina. Oh my god, I hated that. Shao Tucker. Essentially, I don't like him at all. Anyway, sorry, I keep on getting off track. I talked about Ed and Al. I essentially like them. I like their characters. Their personalities. I like how during the entire show, they didn't really kill anybody, except for possibly Father. They kind of killed him. Because they destroyed his Philosopher's Stone, so that essentially died. I feel my throat hurts a little bit. Yeah, I think I am getting sick. Thanks a lot. Everybody's getting sick. Everybody's getting the flu, colds. It's not fun. My boyfriend's got a cough. He doesn't feel well. Some of his family's getting sick with the flu. So yeah. Roy. Oh my god, he's awesome. He is an awesome character. I love how he still tries to help people and is. I wish. Oh, I wish they could. Roy and Riza could have gotten together. That would have been awesome. But I know that if he had become the Fuhrer, she had gotten married to him, she would not be able to really be in the military because she would essentially need to be by his side almost. Oh no, he would need her by his. I don't really know the specifics on this, but essentially they couldn't get married, even if the whole protocol with rank and everything wasn't there. But I know they cared about each other enough to where they actually did love each other. But yeah, I did like Roy as a character. I'm sorry I'm not going into too much detail, but I don't want this to be too long. I also heard that apparently the voice actors for Roy and Lest are married, so essentially Roy killed his own wife in a way, which I think is kind of funny. Yeah, it's slightly a bit messed up at the same time. But yeah, I like that. Even though Roy wanted to essentially avenge Hughes, that even when he found out who Envy was the one who killed him, and that he's obviously tried to kill him, that he was able to come down from that thanks to Ed, Scar, and Riza, and that he was essentially back to normal. Which I was worried he'd go into the crazy pit and go psycho. Scar. I'm not gonna go over every single character. I'm just gonna go over the ones that come to mind. Scar. That was a very complex or interesting character, I should say. I wouldn't say complex because I'm not sure if it is or not. But essentially, he went from wanting to destroy all Sid Alchemist for what happened to his people to trying to save Amestris and change it for the better so that doesn't happen again. I like that. I like how he developed in that way. Because he's an awesome character. Even if he was a villain at first, it was good. I like when a villain can end up becoming a hero at some point and make it actually believable. Ling. From what I've seen, I think his voice actor is the same one who voices Natsu in Fairy Tail, which you can actually see when he gets mad. You can hear Natsu come out. Because I just hear Natsu when I hear Ling getting mad and yelling. I don't know why, it just comes out. And for some reason, it sounds like also like an Asian Tamaki as well from Ouran High School Host Club. I don't know why, it just seems like that way to me. Even though the voice actor also voices Hikaru from Ouran High School Host Club, which I don't get how I can hear both of those characters can end up in this character. But anyway, Ling was an awesome character. I loved him. He deserved to be Emperor, essentially, because he had the entire country's well-being at heart, not just his clan, but everybody else. Sorry, I got an itch to pick a bump right here. Sorry, I just ate. As for, like I said, I'm not going over all the characters. I'm just going over the ones that I like the most. Hohenheim is the last character I think I'm going to go over before I start going over essentially the plot, the intros, and all that. Hohenheim. I essentially thought he was going to be, the whole deadbeat dad thing, where he essentially ran out on his wife and stuff. But by the end of the series, he turns out to be not my favorite character, but one of my favorites. Essentially, it's Ed, Al, Roy, Ling, and Hohenheim. Those are my top 5. But if you guys saw my yeah. Sorry, you get that feeling in your back of your throat. I had that. Anyway, as you probably saw in the finale not the finale, the next to last episode where Hohenheim dies, someone said I looked broken. I didn't think that, but I essentially, yeah, like I've said before in the beginning of the video, I'm a big sensitive mushball, so, yeah. Anything sad like that is gonna get to me, and since I actually liked Hohenheim, it got to me big time. Because I essentially wanted Hohenheim to continue on living and be the father to Ed and Al that he could have been the whole time. But he never got the chance. He didn't even get the chance to see his future grandkids. Which sucks, because I'm sure he would have loved that. But at least now he gets to be with Trisha again. Maybe. Because I don't really know what happens to the souls when they die and pass on to the afterlife. I assume that he'll be with Trisha. Which is good, he'll get to see her again. And be with her for the rest of eternity, essentially. But yeah, he was a good character, essentially got better as you got to see more of him. That's essentially all I got to say about Hohenheim at the moment. If you guys have any comments on any of the characters in the show or anything, or any of the stuff I'm talking about, feel free to talk about it in the comment section. I don't really mind reading the comments. Anyway, as for the story, it was really good. It touched on different stuff that popped up later on in the show, like the first episode, for example. It essentially shows how McDougal was right, and we should have taken down Central and Bradley, but not just Bradley, but Father, but it doesn't mention Father in that, except for that few seconds where they show him. But essentially it shows that McDougal was right all along. We find that out in the end. And how they touch on different parts. They essentially do continuity as they go on in the show. Sorry. Anyway, all the intros, the opening themes, I loved them. My favorites were the 4th and 5th one. But I liked all of them, except possibly the 3rd one. I didn't really like that one as much. That was my least favorite. But all the others were good. I didn't exactly watch the outros, because I didn't really have a need to, unless there was an an ending scene. Like with the episode where Greed is starting to lose it, and he goes and attacks Bradley in his home. That's an example, essentially, of where I would actually watch the outro. But overall, I actually liked Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. It was a really good show. I actually recommend it highly to anybody who would be interested in that type of genre. Or if you're starting out watching anime, I would highly recommend that one. Anyway, if I feel like it, I can add images to this video whenever I talk about characters. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.